Hello YouTube, what's up? I know this is very late, but time for a review on Gotham Knights. I've beaten the game 4 times. I know that's excessive, but I've beaten it once with every character. And my final thoughts, it is a painfully average adventure game. Like 5 out of 10. Right down the line. Now, if you're coming to this game expecting Batman Arkham, a new Batman Arkham game, you're going to be sadly disappointed. That is not what you're getting here. The best comparison I can make this game to is Assassin's Creed Origins in terms of its combat system. It's extremely basic, down to the letter, with very janky JRPG elements. So, at its core, let's start with the narrative. The story is that Batman dies, literally at the beginning. This is not spoilers, it's literally everywhere, the trailer, everything. So Batman dies at the beginning of the game, and he left behind clues relating to the Court of Owls and its hold on Gotham. And your job is to find out why Batman died, for what reasons, and exactly what's going on with the Court of Owls. Now, you can play up to 4 characters: Batgirl, Tim Drake as Robin, Dick Grayson, Nightwing, and then we have Jason Todd as Red Hood. Now, unlike the Arkham games, I'm going to make a lot of comparison to the Arkham games because it's fair enough, because those games set the standard for superhero games, and they're widely considered some of the best games ever made. Even Batman Arkham Asylum holds up to this day. So, yeah, the characters, they don't fight each other, like, in any way. They are extremely cooperative, and they all fight for the same goal, which doesn't make for a good story. Like, yeah, they do try to play it off like, yeah, they reconcile, they're together now, they have a good family unit, but in reality, it doesn't make good drama and good storytelling, because you would expect them to be at each other's throats. Like, Jason Todd doesn't kill anymore in this. He uses, like, non-lethal rounds, but even then, you would expect him to be on the bridge. Like, there are certain scenes where they do get into each other's faces, like Nightwing and Jason Todd, but in reality, this could have been a much bigger game in terms of them fighting each other and being more like at each other's throats, because they don't always get along. Each of these characters are basically a one-man army, but they have always had issues among one another. I mean, one of the biggest things I thought they would have explored is the idea of who would take over as, like, the new Batman, because there could only be one Batman, and that would have been a great story. Or how about Dick Grayson deciding to leave Gotham right after he does station himself in Bloodhaven in order to be his own person. So, or Jason Todd's case, you know, him dealing with the fact that he did die and he's still dealing with that. There are personal narratives which each character explores. Tim Drake is actually the weaker of the personal stories. Barbara Gordon tries to deal with the death of her father. Gordon is dead in this. This was also explained in interviews and all that. Jason Todd, with the idea of him, you know, being kind of isolated from his family while at the same time not being isolated, because they seem to be very compassionate of what he went through, but at the same time he seems distant from them. So I don't know, it just doesn't really mesh well. And then Dick Grayson actually has the best personalized story. It's him dealing with the fact that Bruce is dead. Like, his story is actually the best. He's just trying to come to terms that Bruce is gone and he never got to say goodbye. And if you know Dick Grayson's story, he left Bruce in a very difficult state. He just wanted to get away from him for everything he did. He felt Batman was manipulative, and he was, but he also wanted to be his own hero. To me, the best example of that would be Batman Arkham Knight, when him and Dick Grayson actually team up, and you can see how that tension is still there, but they still respect each other greatly. So in terms of the story, it's very predictable. You'll be able to understand what's going to happen right to the end. Like, if you've seen my live stream, I predicted everything that was going to follow throughout this narrative. There are a lot of plot holes, like the idea that the Court of Owls literally are everywhere. Like, their doors are literally everywhere in the open world. I'll get into the open world later, but they're literally everywhere. They're sometimes in the open, like assaulting citizens. And I'm like, Batman did not find this organization because they're, like... they're everywhere. Like, secret doors, they're assaulting people. It was just ridiculous of how they tried to label this secret organization as not being secret. It wasn't like the League of Assassins in the Batman Arkham City game, where they hid themselves in plain sight for years by building within Gotham. Like, they built their own organization so they can hide without anyone noticing through legitimate businesses. That's how you found out at the end of Arkham City, like, Ra's al Ghul is the one controlling everything, because you find out that he used Mad Hatter's technology through Hugo Strange in order to create this huge problem within Gotham, eventually leading to Arkham City's creation, where Gotham's worst were all condensed into one place. Either way, that was a good way of explaining how they remained hidden from everyone for so long, but in here, it's not done well at all. Like, it's so freaking obvious that you're just wondering how Batman missed any of this. Now, yeah, so the story is not that great. It's, again, it's serviceable. I can say that much. It has a pretty decent ending, and they do have 4 side stories. Clayface, Harley Quinn, Mr. Freeze. Yeah, 3 side stories, not 4. And they're in the open world. Like, with the exception of Harley Quinn and Mr. Freeze, Clayface, you have to go out there and you'll find him. It's pretty easy. Like, you just look for these optional crimes that are happening through the city that are labeled in, like, upside-down triangles. And then you just go there and you'll find him. But, yeah, there are 3 optional villains that you face. They're not part of the story. And the thing is that the villains, it's not portrayed as they did in the original demo. If you remember, like, Batgirl was exploring the city, and then she found Mr. Freeze doing that thing on the tower. That's not how that works. You basically get these cases, then once the case is unlocked, then you go to the Belfry, which is basically your hub area, where everyone hangs out and just talks about what the evidence they found and everything. You click on the case, you go out and you do it. Yeah, occasionally you have to interrogate people, and the interrogation system is so bad, you basically have to go find someone, weaken them, and then you grab them and then you interrogate them. It's just bad. Like, the fact that the Batman Arkham games had this very basic interrogation system where Batman would just grab them after he eliminated everyone around him, it was better than this one. This one is just like, especially when you get to higher levels and you have very OP gear, you can beat enemies in one hit, so it does become tedious that you have to find an enemy who's 1 level higher than you, so you don't one-shot them once you get the most powerful gear. So yeah, the interrogation system is bad. The side missions are average, but let's get into the gameplay. So the gameplay mixes together action, combat, and RPG elements. So at its core, the RPG elements are your basic, you earn experience, you put it into talent trees. There are 4 talent trees in total, 3 of which you unlock at the beginning. The 4th one is a Nightfall talent tree, which unlocks you the unique ability for each of the heroes, and that you just have to complete the same thing over and over again. You have to do a timed strike challenge, which is basically training. You have to do a specific training challenge in order to maximize your timed strikes. Then you have to do crimes around the city, and I forgot what the last one is, but yeah, it's always the 3 most tedious things. Once you do it, you unlock the special ability for the character, which is a mobility ability along with the special talent tree. For Barbara Gordon, it's gliding. For Nightwing, he gets the drone that can glide endlessly. For Jason Todd, he can use the Lazarus Pit power in order to leap a 2nd time or a 3rd time, depending on your elevation. And Tim Drake can just teleport. Literally, it looks like an alpha asset where he just teleports. He blinks out of existence and blinks into existence. It's so funny. I was just like, are you serious? It's like they had no ideas, so they decide, yeah, he just teleports. Like, they try to make it like cloaking technology, where he just disappears and reappears, but it's literally like teleported. It's funny. But yeah, most of the, like, all the characters, for the most part, play somewhat the same. Yeah, they have different character animations of how they fight, but they still have, like, hard strike, light strike, ranged attack, heavy ranged attack for, you know, disabling fast enemies that you fight in the Court of Owls. And yeah, that's it. The only thing that makes them unique is the talent trees, which makes them either effective healers, fighters, stuff like that. It does get a bit fun when you're in a co-op, but you can just destroy everything in co-op, because I don't feel like it's really balanced for co-op, because you can literally just wreck shop with a 2nd player, especially against boss fights where they're solely focused on one person. They have this targeting system where they have AoE attacks, but they also have mostly single attacks. So as long as they have as long as their aggro is on a specific player, you can literally just, like, go between them pretty effectively. So it kind of breaks the game in co-op, but you can explore the city in that. But yeah, the gameplay is, like, yeah, there are aesthetic changes based on the character you're playing as, but for the most part, I didn't really see a difference. Like, they played mostly the same. Like, I can go from one to the other, no problem. You can switch characters at any time, so you don't have to worry about that. And yes, two characters can play the same character, so there can be two Barbara Gordons, two Nightwings, and stuff like that. Now, I know I said a lot of negative things about it. The best thing about this game is definitely the visual design and animations. Those things look spectacular. Like, the cinematics look freaking amazing. The boss designs are incredible. And the suits look freaking fantastic. Dear God, the suits look amazing. And while you can transmog suits, you can't customize transmog suits. So once you transmog them, you're stuck to that default option. But if you don't transmog the suit, you can actually have a variety of colors, 3 options to choose from based on cowls, gauntlets, boots. It's pretty damn good. Like, the animation team went wild with this stuff, and it's really well done. Like, the amount of heart that went into, like, the aesthetics of the game, like the sound design, the voice acting, all of that, it's really well done. It's the gameplay that really sours the experience. Like, for example, let's talk about the elephant in the room that everyone talked about, the open world. The open world sucks. There's no doubt about it. It's hollow, it's uninventive, it has no life to it. Like, Batman Arkham City had more life to it than the city. And yes, you can run over innocent people. I'm not joking. The bat cycle is what you use. You can run over innocent people, and there are no consequences. Like, there are innocent people walking around. Like, Barbara Gordon just walks around on the street, and they're just like, yeah, it's Barbara Gordon. I'm just like, what? Like, why? It just blows your mind. Like, I get what they were trying to do here. Like, it's not like Batman Arkham City or Arkham Asylum where the entire city is just filled with criminals. So, but here it's just so awkward. And the bat cycle, it's just bad. Like, it's your basic just, device. Like, if you compare it between Batman Arkham Knight's Batmobile, like how you can literally call it at any time and it self-drives to you and it's always cinematic how you get into the vehicle. Here, it just cloak in, cloak away. And then it just comes, and there's no sense of momentum, no sense of speed. They try to create it with, like, the visual effects of, the little lines going back and the light, like, dashing forward, but there's no sense of speed. It's, like, so boring to drive. And yeah, the city is just filled with just the same activity over and over. In fact, they recycled the same activity in the same locations over and over and over again. Even sometimes using the same activity within the main missions and case missions. Like the side missions, they'll send you to the same location you've been doing over and over again, and you just have to do the same thing. Defeat the enemies, transfer the organ, stop the vehicle. I mean, yes, Marvel's Spider-Man did the same system, but the gameplay was fun. Like, it was fun to travel around as Spider-Man. Like, it was so much fun to swing around and just do that stuff. They had this sense of momentum and speed where you can dash between one activity to the next. Here, it's such a draining process. You have to get onto the bat cycle. You have to ride to the location. Then you have to stop, and then it's just so tedious. Like in Batman Arkham Knight and Arkham City, how you can use the dive bomb to travel from one end to the city to the next. It was quick. It was efficient. You didn't even need to use the Batmobile in Arkham Knight. You can literally just use the dive bomb if you're good at it and travel from one side of Gotham to the next, no problem, with blazing speeds. Here, you don't have that option. You have to use the bat cycle, and there is a fast travel system you unlock with Lucius Fox. You do talk to him, and then he gives you this drone system where you can teleport between the city. I don't know why you can't fly it. Like, this was the perfect opportunity for you to fly it. But you can't fly it. I think they felt they would have broke the game. But at the same time, it just makes no sense why you can't fly it. Like, once you disable the drones, which is basically the ability of disabling, allowing you to use the drone in different locations. It's Assassin's Creed, basically, like synchronization points. And I'm just like, why can't I fly this thing? Like, why not? Just let me fly it. It would have been so much better if you can fly it, but yeah, the city is hollow and lifeless, and it doesn't even come close to the gangs that you fight. So you fight 3 major gangs: the mob, which they dress in tracksuits and carry Tommy guns. Then you have the regulators, who are armed to the teeth with technology from Mr. Freeze. And then you have the Freakers, which, was in that infamous demo about them, like, acting like characters from Borderlands, the Psychos. Where there, it was tasteful. Here, it's just like, what were they thinking? Even when you find out why the freaks are the way they are, you're just like, it makes you so like, what the hell were they thinking? Like, were they just trying to be like comical? Like, it just blows your mind. Like, this game has a real issue with identity where it's trying to be dark while trying to be also lighthearted, and it doesn't mix well. Like, a lot of the game just doesn't mix well with the writing and the atmosphere based on what they're showing throughout the game. Now, the equipment and the build system is your basic, get the most powerful items and just equip it along with mod. And, like, I didn't find the interface hard to navigate. A lot of people apparently did. It was simpler for me, but I think it's because it's so relatable to the Shadow of War system, and that system was a bit obtuse, but since I was used to that system, I feel like I was also used to this system. You equipped your suit, then you equipped your melee weapon, then your ranged weapon, and you can equip one mod. Again, it just follows the South Park Stick of Truth to equip the most powerful item. I didn't really think I needed to equip like certain resistance or certain elemental resistance, which they try to make you do because certain characters use like poison, ice, all that stuff, or fire. I just maximized critical damage and I basically wailed on everyone, no problem. But the option is there. And don't worry, there's no like pay to win option, at least from what I can tell. But yeah, it's a basic equip the best items system and just go wild with it. And yeah, that's it for the gameplay. Basic, nothing really inventive, very tedious and boring. There's no counter system. You just dodge, you attack, you dodge again, you use a melee, you use a range. So the number one elephant in the room issue with this game is definitely the way they dish out damage. Now, enemies are bullet sponges. They are. They take so much damage, especially in New Game Plus, which carries over your equipment, your gear, and your abilities. Everything carries over, and they increase the level cap to 40, with enemies going up to 41 or even 42, depending on if you fight the very powerful, rare mob enemies. But for the most part, the enemies are bullet sponges. Like, some fights can take literally 20 minutes just because they have so much damn health. Like, it's the Division 1 levels of health, and it's very upsetting how they made the system. Like, some of these fights could have been great, but they just decided to, turn them on their heads with the amount of health you have to just weasel out of them. Like, enemies will just repeat the same patterns over and over again, and you just have to keep doing the same thing over and over again. In fact, I tested this between co-op and solo play. You need to play co-op if you're going to play New Game Plus, because if you play solo, things are just going to get very, very repetitive. It's not going to be easy, and it's going to be super annoying. Now, stealth is available for if you want to take things that way, and it's basic. Like, I would say Deus Ex Mankind Divided had more fleshed out stealth systems. Same thing for Batman Arkham Asylum. The stealth system in this game is so rudimentary. You have basically sneak behind the enemy and either silent takedown them or ambush takedown them. There's barely any gadgets to use, no challenges, no nothing like that. It's the most basic system you can possibly imagine. In fact, I have a video on that. I'll probably link it below about the terrible AI in this game. But the sneaking system is basic. And yeah, the game does offer incentives in order for you to gain more experience and like material to craft new stuff. There is a crafting system in here, but it's basic again. You get material, use it in order to craft it. The only rare material is a legendary shard that you get from defeating a specific mob enemy who are just rare within the environment. But yeah, the modded system is simple, but they have these bonus challenges where mostly they force you into stealth. At first I focused on that stuff, but then eventually I decided, you know what, there are no consequences for me to just go in there and just beat everyone. And it was quicker and a lot more efficient for me to do that, especially as Nightwing and Red Hood. Whereas Barbara Gordon and Tim Drake, they're more stealth-oriented, but with Tim Drake and Red Hood, they literally just kill everything. So I found like just going in there and just murdering everyone was a lot easier. Well, non-lethally murdering them. And what really doesn't sell Gotham Knights is all the little details that we took for granted within Rocksteady's games. Like things like, for example, when you knocked an enemy off a high roof, Batman would actually use his grapple in order to prevent enemies from falling to their deaths. That's not here. Enemies fall to their deaths like 20, 30 feet. They'll fall to their deaths. There's no grapple thing or anything. Or when you would look at enemies, their chest will actually compress and go down, showing they're still breathing. And you know, like, even with the Batmobile, you know how he used the shock system in order to, like, disable enemies instead of killing them. Yeah, they would be flying around, but, you know, they tried it. And with the cannon, you know, switching between anti-riot rounds to the 9mm cannon for the tank. You know, little things like that that really help sell the environment that Batman does not kill. In this game, all those little details, once you start to, like, notice that, you're like, none of that is here. Like, all of it just feels empty and hollow. Like, the visual design is very well done. The cinematics are super cool and very good. And the character design is amazing, but it's just everything involved in the gameplay and interactive elements of the game is just very poor. And I think that's why this game is getting so many bad reviews. Like, again, I would give this a solid flatline 5. It is a average adventure game. That's all it is to its core. It is not supposed to be a huge, massive release in the Batman franchise. It's just supposed to be a standard action game. The way that's how I'm seeing it. Like, I'm not considering marketing or how WB has pushed this game, but the way I have experienced it and played it, it is just a painfully standard adventure game. And if you come into that expecting that, you may have a really good time, especially if you bring a friend along. I mean, any game is fun as long as you bring a friend along. As far as I can tell, the cooperative features are pretty well done. I never got a disconnect issue. Yes, I got disconnecting issues if you've been watching my videos on that, but that's because my Wi-Fi sucks. When I put a direct line into my PlayStation 5, I never got dropped. Maybe it's different for other people, but yeah, that was for me. As for technical issues, yeah, I did run into an issue where there were 2 Barbara Gordons. I'll post that video by itself later. The game crashed on me twice during my 4 playthroughs, which, you know, that's it. It crashed, and the save function was effective. Like, I didn't lose much progress. I was just, like, in and out pretty, I was in and out, basically. So, in terms of technical design, the game is pretty stable, at least from my playthrough. I don't know how it is on Xbox. I did have people on my stream come in and say the Xbox Series S version, like, if you played on the Series S, it was crashing all the time. But I played it on PlayStation 5, and it didn't have that many issues or problems with the games, like, cutscenes. I didn't have the infamous Jason Todd like hoodie thing. So yeah, it's not a bad game. It's not a great game if you want something to distract yourself with. Like, I wouldn't pay $70 for this game. I would say wait for it to go down to 40. 40 is actually a decent price, I would say. That's a good asking price for this. Either way, tell me what you think in the comments below. Like the video if you liked it, dislike it if you disliked it. Subscribe, and of course, Twitch and Patreon link below. Helps a great deal if you want to help me out on supporting this channel. Either way, I got other work to do, and I just wanted to put out this video in my review and my thoughts on the game. Either way, I'll be putting up a lot more videos on Batman Arkham Knight, you know, because I played 4 playthroughs of the game, and I have a lot of, like, content to dish out. But either way, again, this has gone on long enough. Thanks for watching. See ya.